She's asking you a question.
You're going, you have to start. Unfortunately, I'm still not too impressed about the numbers, but what can we do? We can't wait for forever. So we'll have to move on. All right. We start today's session in the name of the Father, the God, the Son. I think I may be mistaken because we have Muslims and we have all kinds of people here. So sorry, but we can have some 1 second prayers in our own heads. So whichever way we wanted to pray for just a second and then we move on. All right. So that note, we continue where we left off yesterday. Yesterday, we tried to just talk about some basic things that will be required in a lab. I keep on saying that we are preparing ourselves for exams and also for deeper understanding of the things that we do in the lab. So it's a two-way traffic. As we move along, some probable questions will come up, and then you will be directed as to how to answer those questions. But by and large, you'll be better informed about the science behind a lot of the things that we do in microbiology. All right, so, right. So I think that we have to go back a little bit and throw more light on what was perceived to be a challenge with the calculations. Unfortunately, as we speak now, I've tried to see if I could get some drawings and what have you, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work for me. So I'll still do the talking. Right. So for the saline, we all now know and understand that if you say saline, technically you haven't said anything. Any salt solution is saline. As soon as you bring the adjective normal saline, then you are talking about a salt concentration, a salt solution whose concentration is known, and that is 0.9%. I've told you that unless for MCQs or for questions that provide answers that typically bring about 0.9, you can take that. But for scientific write-ups, don't write 0.9, write 0.85%. It is very, very important to know that the 0.85%, the 0.9 is just an approximation. All right. I'm not saying that it's wrong to say that it's 0.9, but if you are making a scientific write-up, make it 0.85%. But the normal saline is also called isotonic saline. It is also called physiological saline. I'm sure you know why they are all the same. Physiologically, the fluid that fills our extracellular compartment is similar to normal saline, and therefore it is physiologically compatible with the body fluid. And so that's why it is also called sometimes called physiological saline. So, and then when you say isotonic 2, it is the same concentration as we have in the body cells. So there's no difference between normal saline, physiological saline, and the isotonic saline. There's no difference whatsoever. It depends on who is talking. If it's a physiological, let's say somebody in physiology, something you talk about physiological saline. Somebody in typical laboratory science environment, medical laboratory science, will talk about normal saline. Somebody in other laboratories can talk about isotonic saline. So I want to emphasize that isotonic saline, physiological saline, normal saline are one and the same. They all have a concentration of 0.85% or 0.9%. We try to talk about the use of hypertonic saline in clinical management of patients, and then hypertonic saline. And I also try to inform you that 5% saline can be used as a test control for our urine dipstick. When you have urine dipstick, of course, the multi-stick, the one with multiple parameters, you target the specific gravity. I say so because it is easier for manufacturers to just want to concentrate on other parameters and then do anything for the specific gravity section. So if you want to control it, then you target the weak point, and the weak point is the specific gravity point. So once you target that one, and then it is found to be, let's say, abnormal or not in conformity with the expectation, then once the specific gravity fails, the whole strip is said to have failed, because it is based on the principle of either all or none. All must pass or it is declared none. So once the specific gravity fails, the whole strip has to be rejected. I'm dealing with one of the cases in my lab now. Right. So that is how you can control you use 5% saline to control your urine dipstick. For emphasis, I'm saying that if you have the specific gravity portion, you test it against distilled water, test it against normal saline, and test it against 5% saline. We test it with distilled water. The specific gravity portion should give you 1.000. Now, normally urine specific gravity is reported to 3 decimal points. So you can't say 1.0. Even if it's 1.0, it should be reported as 1.000 because it is reported in 3 decimal places. And that should be the distilled water portion. So you don't use that same strip which you have tested with the distilled water and use it for saline. No. So you use another strip, a second strip. And this time around, you test it against normal saline. And all of us know normal saline, which is, let me put it 0.9%. Okay. You prepare your normal saline and also test it. When you test against normal saline, it should give you 1.005. No two ways about it. If it gives you 1.000, it is wrong. If it gives you 1.010, it is wrong. It should give you 1.005 for the normal saline. If that one also passes, then you test against a higher saline, which is 5% saline. 5% saline should give you 1.030. 1.030. If a pack of dipstick gives, you take 3 And all these things gives you the expected specific gravity values. Then it means that that strip is good. You can forget about the others. That strip is good, you can pass it. Okay, that's what I said yesterday. Now, with preparation of normal saline, I'm saying that you are preparing 0. Let's use the 0.9 for simplicity's sake. When you say 0.9%, it means 0.9 grams dissolved in 100 mL of the cell water. Anytime you are preparing solutions and the solute is solid, have to be weighed in grams. Your solvent, of course, is usually the cell water. It is also in moles, dissolved in moles. If it is percentage, all of us know that percentage means 100. If it is percentage, then it means that your solvent is 100 mL. And then the percentage that you are talking about will be the grams equivalent of that substance. So if you are dealing with, say, normal saline, which has 0.9% sodium chloride, then it means you weigh 0.9 grams of the sodium chloride, and because it is percentage, it is 0.9 grams dissolved in 100 mL of the cell water. That will give you your 0.9%. So the 0.9 is the gram equivalent of the salt. If you have to do a 5% saline, it means the 5 you are talking about be 5 grams. And because it is percentage, it is in 100 mL. So it is 5 grams in 100 mL. It is very, very simple. Very, very, very simple. So if I have to prepare, coming back to the saline, if I have to prepare 1 liter normal saline, then the question is, what is normal saline? Normal saline is 0.9 grams of sodium chloride in 100 mL. So I wish I could do the right thing. Unfortunately, I still don't think that I can do that. Okay, let me try to do something. I hope you can see this. Can you see that?
Yes, yes,
okay.
We can see.
Okay, so if it is normal saline, then it's going to be 0.9%. So 0.9%. For simplicity's sake, I'm saying that when we are doing a serious scientific write-up, make it 0.85%. But for this kind of calculation, you will do it as 0.9%. And you will see here that even though they have written here normal saline solution, and this is what was being used in a laboratory in La Côte d'Ivoire, I told you yesterday. They just saw that this is a saline solution, they were using it. But when you look here, you will see that it is sodium chloride 0.45%. 0.45% here. The 0.45% here is not 0.9%. It is the half strength of this. So therefore, this saline can be said to be half strength or half normal saline. Half H and S, something like this. Let me put it that way. Half normal saline. Good. So this will be half normal saline, but they were using it in the lab, of course. I didn't know that the different, once the saline solution is broadly written here, they took it as if it is normal saline. The normal saline is 0.9%, okay? Right. Then the explanation of this is that 0.9% means 0.9 grams, 0.9 grams in 100 mL of the cell water. Okay, I'm just trying to do something. I hope you can manage with that. So the 0.9%, the interpretation is that it is 0.9 grams in 100 mils. Okay, now you want to prepare 1 liter. 1 liter in mils is 1,000 mils. 1 liter is 1,000 mils. Okay, so let me see if I can go back and clean this one. So please bear with me. No. Okay, let me. A place with enough. Okay, let me use this space. So, so, oh, what is happening? Dissolved in to be 1,000. So I asked myself, how can my 100 become 1,000? If I multiply my 100 by 10, if I multiply here by 10, I'm going to get this right side to be 1,000. Okay, I get my 1,000, and this 1,000 is 1,000 mils. Okay, which is equivalent, sorry, which is equivalent to the 1 liter. Okay, now once I have multiplied this side by 10, then of course I have to also multiply this side also by what? By 10. When I multiply this side by 10, my 0.9 becomes 9 grams. Okay, so what it means is that if I dissolve 9 grams of my sodium chloride in the 1,000 mils, which is the 1 liter of the seawater, I'll get my 1 liter normal saline. Okay, now if the question says that, so what will it take to prepare 2 liters of normal saline? I've already managed to get 1 liter here. So 2 liters means I'll multiply this side by 2. If I multiply this side by 2, I'll get my 2 liters. So I should also multiply this side also by what? By 2. If I multiply this side by 2, what do I get? Yes. What do I get?
18.
18. So it means that, very good, fantastic. Everybody clap for yourselves. Good. So it means that if I dissolve 18 grams of my sodium chloride in 2 liters, I'll still get my normal saline. That's all. So normally a question like this will come for the diploma level. They can ask you that which of the following statements about normal saline is correct. Okay, then certain things will come up. Let's say 18 grams of sodium chloride dissolved in 2 liters. That statement will be correct. If they go back and say that, oh, it is 0.9 grams dissolved in 1,000 mils, will give that statement will be wrong, because if you dissolve 0.9 grams in 1,000 mils, you are not going to get 0.9%. Okay, so once you understand the dynamics, any way they will put it, you have to be able to do it. All right, so that is all about the normal. It is very, very simple. Once you understand the dynamics, it's very, very simple. And if you situate this one with the Cote d'Ivoire picture that I showed you, what is it? You will see that if anybody had looked at this point, you see that this is saline solution, but the concentration here is 0.45. Then the person will have raised the question, but they just didn't know they felt that any saline solution is saline, and that is where I have the challenge. Again, with the 5%, as with the 5% will mean 5 grams, okay? 5% means 5 grams in what? In 100 mils. So 5 grams in 100 mils, okay? 5 grams in 100 mils. This is equivalent to a 5% saline. So if let's say I need just 20 mils, I'm not going to use 5% saline for anything. I just want to repair 5% saline, put it in the lab so that in case I want to use it for a test for my urine strips, I can use it. If I just need just about 20 mils for that work, then the question is, this portion, which is 100 mils, I don't even need 100. Okay, I just need 20 mils. So the question is, how can I get 20 from my 100? Yes. How can my 100 become 20? Yes, all of you. I said 5% means 5 grams in 100 mils. Okay. So if I weigh 5 grams and dissolve 100 mils, I'll get my 5%. Now, but I don't need 100 mils of the 5%. I don't need it. I will just need just 20 mils and keep it in the lab. So you ask yourself, if I weigh 5 grams into 100 mils, it means that I'll pour the rest away, which will be a waste. Now you want to be very economical and also be very exact. So you ask yourself, what can I do so that this is my 100 here, this is my 100 here, how can it become 20? Yes.
That means that you have to
You divide by 5.
10,
yes,
10
as simple as that. No, not 10 grams. It means that I have to divide this portion, this 100 by 5.
By 5.
If I divide this portion by 5, what do I get? What do I get?
20.
I get 20. This 20 is what I need. So because I have divided this portion by 5, I also have to divide this side also by what?
5.
By 5. And what do I get?
1.
What do I get? 1.
1.
So it means that I would rather weigh 1 gram and dissolve my 1 gram in what? 20 mils. I dissolve my 1 gram in 20 mils, and I'll still get my 5%. And I'll still get just the 20 mils that I'll keep in my lab. Okay, so the question is that just understand the fundamentals. And once you understand the fundamentals, anyway, anyhow, you can manage it. The same way, if you want 2 liters of the 5% saline, it means that now 5 grams in 100 mils. I want 2 liters. Okay. So in 100 mils. So if I want 2 liters, then straight away, first I'll multiply this side by 10. I'll multiply this side by 10, I'll get 1,000 mils. If I get 1,000 mils, which is equivalent to 1 liter, then I also multiply this side also by 10. Okay. And I'm going to get 50. I get 50 here. Then I come back here and multiply this side again by 2 because I need 2 liters. So I'll multiply this side also by 2 again. Okay, and now I'm going to get 2,000, which is equivalent to 2 liters. And then I'm going to multiply this side also by 2 again, because the first one was to give me 1 liter. 5 times 10 will give me the 1 liter. And then I multiply by 2 to give me for the 2 liters. So, ladies and gentlemen, once you understand the dynamics, you can manage it, manipulate it anyway, anyhow. Is there anything that somebody doesn't understand again?
Yes, Grandpa.
Right. Yes, sir.
Please, concern yesterday you talked about calculating the colony forming unit.
Colony forming unit. Okay. So because there were 2 calculations, the one was the saline. So I wanted to create the saline portion.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Grandpa, I want to
Okay.
I want to ask a
Yes,
question
sir.
on the saline. Yeah. With
Please go ahead.
Okay. With this one that is the half normal saline, which is the 0.45%. I would like to know that what effect will it have when it's being used? Because you said when you went to that place,
fantastic. Yes,
yes.
Fantastic.
So
Yes,
what
fantastic,
refers to-
fantastic question. Fantastic question. Fantastic question. You see, normally after preparing your saline, you need to control it. The best way to control your saline is just take a drop of water and put it in your, let's say you can take some 5 ml of the normal saline that you have prepared, put in a drop or 2 of just blood, okay? Now, if it is hypotonic, what do you expect to happen? As we have here, the 0.45, it is very hypotonic. What do you expect it to happen?
The cell will swell up.
The soil will swell up just like that. It will hemolyze, isn't it? The cells are supposed to hemolyze, isn't it?
Yes.
Nice.
Because osmotically, water will move from a lower concentration area to what? What? To a higher concentration area. So since the saline is a lower concentration area, water will move from the saline, this particular one, which is lower hypotonic, will move into the cells. And once they move into the cells, of course, it will swell and it will burst and it will lyse. So you expect lysis. But sometimes people don't, the lysis may not be too conspicuous. You know why? Who can tell me why lysis at 0.45 may not be too conspicuous? I want somebody to tell me using the principle of hematology. Even though this is microbiology. I'm saying that yes, this one, you are using it to if you want to control it, you take some of the saline, add some few drops of blood, and you expect hemolysis. I'm saying that sometimes the hemolysis doesn't show, so it doesn't become so obvious. And somebody might even overlook it. Why? Why do you think that can happen? I'm trying to clear the mess here. I don't know how to do it. Okay, yeah. Yes. Yes. Who can tell me? You just make an attempt and then we are all discussing.
Hello,
I'm
Grandpa. Please, the question
Yes,
again.
sir.
Yeah, because
I'm saying that.
I'm thinking that because the sodium chloride is not sufficient to lyse the cell, so it will be significant.
Why do you think that it will not be enough to lyse it? Yes.
Is it because the concentration is close to that of the blood?
Oh, but that blood is supposed to be 0.9%. And this one is 0.45. This is half strength. You all agree? This is half strength. Okay. So there's supposed to be hemolysis. But I'm saying the hemolysis sometimes may not be very obvious. Have you heard about osmotic fragility of blood? Have you heard about it before?
Yes, please.
What does it mean? In hematological principles, what is osmotic fragility? What is osmotic fragility? Oh, do you have any idea about osmotic fragility tests?
I think it's used to measure distance of vessel or something.
Where? Come again. Yes, we are all learning. Please. This is even though it is pathology, sorry, microbiology, but it is important. We need to understand some of these things and then move on. So come again. The osmotic fragility test.
If in case, yeah, if in case you want to check any resistance regard to hemolysis, that's where they do that test. That's when they do that test.
Okay.
Checking
they do. Who do it? I mean, yeah, laboratory scientists. So that's where we do that test. Not that they do. Who will do it? So that's great. So if you are suspecting, let's say, hereditary spherocytosis, okay, and then the cells are already spherocytic. I mean, it's already rounded up. You see, normally you appreciate that a normal red cell is biconcave. Biconcave is like a football which is not fully bloated. If you press your hand against it, if you press both palms against it, you see that this side will cave in, the other side will cave in. That's for a football, which is not harm. So, and that's the nature of a normal red cell, which is biconcave. So if there's, before the cell can bloat, and then before the cell can lyse, it has to fill in that space. It's like a football. You see that once it is not fully bloated, and you have the kind of situation that I'm trying to describe, when you put your hand, it is not fully bloated, so you put both, you slap it, so to speak, with both hands. There's a shape here and there's a shape there, biconcave. So if you now want to put in more air, it can take in a lot of air until all the size which went in comes out. Before now, if you now put in more of the air, then the ball can burst. Okay, so if you have a spherocyte, which is already bloated out, okay, it's not biconcave, bloated out. Any amount of fluid that it gets in, any small amount of fluid will burst the cell. So, but for a normal red cell, it will have the capacity to take in some amount of fluid up to a portion that it will also become spherical before it will burst. So for normal red cell, they have the capacity to absorb as much up to the half strength. Up to half strength before they become like swollen, and then now any extra load will burst it. Unless the cells are spherocytic. If the cells are already spherocytic, then even at a concentration of 0.7, which is just a little down the line of 0.9, that small amount of fluid which will go into a cell will just cause the cell to burst. So say osmotic, when you say something is fragile, it means that it's very, very, I mean, it can easily break down. So osmotic fragility test is just normally test for spherocytes, okay, cells that are already spherocytic. Once they're already spherocytic, it means that once they take in any small amount of what do you call it, fluid, it will burst. So the test is done by, you do your 0.9%, you do 0.7%, you do 0.5%. I'm talking about saline. Do 0.5%, you do 0.4%, do 0.3%, and then you put in blood and look at the rate of hemolysis. So you see that at 0.5, you may not even see hemolysis. Later down at 0.4, then you see that the cells are hemolyzed. If at 0.7, the cells are already hemolyzed, then you see that these cells are not normal red cells. They are mainly purely spherocytic cells. That's how it is. So you see, and you realize that when you're using this one for, let's say, normally in the lab, you use it to prepare, we'll talk later on about wet mounts, but normally you prepare wet mounts of stools. Okay, and stool, what are you looking for? You are looking for ova, and ova, even in water, nothing will happen. Unless, let's say, you have seen some trophozoites. Trophozoites, then they have the capacity to take in the water. The majority of the time, or most of the time, you're looking for ova. So the ova, even if you use ordinary water, then the ova is there. You will say nothing will happen. So that's why they were using the saline, and then nobody felt that it was wrong. I don't know whether I'm making some point. So yes, somebody is asking me why is it that they were still using that hand. So that could be the cause. You use this one. If you don't take care, you will never know that you are using the wrong preparation because you may not get any effect. All right. Even if there are red cells in urine, and then you did what do you call? You added some of this half strength saline. The red cells may not lyse. If the red cells are normal, they will not lyse. Okay, for you to detect, why is it that my saline is lysing all the cells? Okay, so that is the possible explanation why they were doing all those things and they didn't find anything wrong with it. Any other question? Does the explanation sit well with you?
Yes, far better.
Okay, very good. All right, so we move on. Can somebody help me? I'm trying to clear the mess. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to clear the mess here, and
then use the eraser.
I think you go to the same place and then erase. You go to the same place where you pick
okay. After all, we are not going to use this side, so I can move to another slide and then probably I'll have my. So we are talking also about the colony count. That is also another calculation area. Let me see. Good. So with I've told you that if you have loops in the lab for streaking, if for only purpose for streaking, you don't need it to be calibrated. You don't need to be calibrated. The one that has to be calibrated, the calibration, we can have the normal wire. And remember, I told you that even with the wire, you can't use any ordinary metal. Okay, and we use other platinum, tungsten, nickel, chrome, nichrome, and so forth and so on. And then I told you why nichrome is preferable. Good. If it is the wire that you have made or somebody have made and brought it to you, you can look at it and then you can, sometimes they even write non-calibrated, yet they will tell you that the internal diameter is 4 millimeters or internal diameter 3 millimeters, internal diameter 5 millimeters. Now I'm telling you that the 4 millimeters has been known to be consistent with a 10 microliters. Okay. Now, if it is one of these disposable plastic ones that are now coming into the system, then they will have calibrated it, and they will tell you that on the pack they will write 1 microliter or 10 microliters. Normally they come in as 1 microliter or 10 microliters, right? So that will not be a problem. But for the normal wires, you will have to calibrate it. If you are lucky and then they have written the internal diameter on it as 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters or 5 millimeters, then you pick the 4 millimeters one as equivalent to 10 microliters and use it. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying that because it is well known that a 4 millimeter diameter wire is equivalent to 10 microliters, they can easily ask that question, especially for the lower KIDA. They will ask you a 4 millimeter, blah, 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 will give you or pick or deliver. This one, what volume of as you pick in, as you put in the loop or pick a certain volume. That volume, if the loop has a diameter of 4 millimeters, that volume is and should be 10 microliters. That one too, you have to know it. So then I said that now, if you are dealing with urine, normally we would do a colony count. Okay, why do we do a colony count? We do a colony count because urine is not sterile. May not be, it's not necessarily sterile. Now, so the colonies, the fact that you see colonies on a urine culture plate doesn't mean that the person has infection. Okay, so there is a certain cutoff, a certain number of colonies beyond which it could be deemed to be an infection. Let me also take this opportunity to also alert your mind to something. You see, urine is not sterile because you micturate or just pass the urine through the urethra. The urethra is not a sterile place. You know that urethra, whether male or female, especially as for me, the male crowd, yes, I'm just kidding. As for but for the women, the urethra opens into the vagina somehow, and therefore it is very apt to be contaminated, far more higher than you have the males. But in the males, you have what you call the urethra meatus. Urethra meatus, that's the opening of the urethra. The urethra opens outside, whether into your panties or into your anywhere, but it opens outside. And once it opens outside, it is in contact with environmental bacteria. And therefore, the bacteria that gets into the urethra meatus, and for that matter, the opening of the urethra, will necessarily become resident bacteria within the urethra. So the urethra is always not that contaminated, but always have commensals or bacteria in there. You call them resident bacteria. Those resident bacteria, once you are micturating or flushing urine, that's why we recommend that you you collect midstream urine. Midstream urine means that allow the first portion to go, you collect the middle portion, and also allow the last portion to go. The first portion is supposed to flush off the bacteria which are resident within the urethra. Okay, but you see that it cannot be foolproof. There's no way that that amount of urine which is coming in will flush off all the bacteria in the listing. So technically, you are going to get some remnants of the urethra bacteria to be contaminating the urine that you are going to send to a lab for culture. And therefore, the presence of bacteria in the urine does not conclude that there's an infection. Right, that's why this thing is there. However, now we have what we call SPA, suprapubic aspiration. Suprapubic aspiration, sometimes the patient, especially the kids, some people who probably cannot even do anything, then they cannot even pass urine. Then the doctor will pass needle, when it says suprapubic, above the pubic region. So all of us know the pubic area. Above, above the pubic area. If you insert a needle, you enter the bladder, as simple as that. So aspiration is just collection of fluid through a needle and a syringe sort of action. So once you puncture the suprapubic area, you are entering the bladder. And once you aspirate, the fluid that will come from it is nothing but urine. You see that this urine has not passed through the urethra. And therefore, this cutoff point we are talking about will not hold. So if you meet a question like, what do you expect to be normal for urine collected by suprapubic aspirate? You see that you expect no bacterial growth. And this is something, it's a common sense of thing. I've told you that the urine, growth in urine should reach a certain cutoff before it is considered to be significant, just because the urine is passing through the urethra. Okay, the urethra already has bacterial flora there. And even though you collect midstream urine, a certain portion will push some of the bacteria off, but still you get some of the bacteria in there. And so that can lead to bacterial growth in the urine that you are collecting. We are saying that this urine was collected via suprapubic aspirate. So they just want to find out whether you know what is suprapubic aspirate. The suprapubic aspirate is aspirating urine direct from the bladder. So if it is direct from the bladder, then the component of the urethra is excluded. So if the bladder is anything to go by, you don't expect any bacterial growth. All right. Or even if the bacterial growth, even if it is one, that is, let the question be twisted anyhow, you get it. You will get it. All right. Right. So that is one side. I think I know that. We want you to report your denominator is now in males. If your denominator is in males and you're using macroliter loops, it means that you must also convert the macroliter also to males so that you find your reading. All right. So then the question is, what is one macroliter in males? One macroliter in males is divide whenever you have macroliter. Unit going into a macroliter and then males. You ask yourself, which is higher? Macroliter is higher than males. So macroliter is smaller than the males. Okay. So I'm saying that if you have smaller to higher, divide. So macroliter is smaller. You want to convert it to males, which is higher. So you have to divide. And the factor there is 1,000. So you are going to divide by 1,000. So it's like, okay, if you have meters and kilometers, okay, if I have meters and kilometers, meters is lower. I'm moving to kilometers. Meters is lower. So I have to divide. From lower to higher, I'll have to divide. Find a way of remembering some of these things. From lower to higher, if I have meters, I want to go into kilometers, I have to divide. If I have kilometers, I want to move to meters. Because it is higher, I have to multiply. I'll have to multiply. If it is lower to higher, divide. So macroliters to males. Macroliters is smaller. So I'm going to divide. I hope that I've made myself clear. So 1 macroliter to males, the factor is 1,000, but I have to divide. So it means that I'll have to divide the 1 by 1,000. When I divide the 1 by 1,000, I'm going to get 0.001 and become 0.001 mils. Okay, so if I have another loop, which is 10 macroliters, if I have another loop, which is 10 macroliters, I'm changing it to mils. Since macroliters is lower, and I'm taking it to a higher level, I have to divide. The factor there is 1,000. So I'm going to divide the 10 by 1,000. Then I'm going to get 0.01 mils. Is there any confusion about this? Is there any confusion about this? Good.
No.
Very good. So now then a question comes in that you use a thermoaccumulator loop, and then you plate it, and then at the end of the day, you counted 70 colonies on the plate. What is the colony forming unit per mil? Per mil. Okay, so the question is, oh, I use thermoaccumulators, which is equivalent to 0.01 mils. Okay, and I've got 70 colonies. So make it, let me see if I can do the right thing here again. So I had 0. And I'm sure that you know that thermoaccumulators is equivalent to 0.01. So 0.01, and I got 70 colonies. And I got 70 colonies. So what will happen? This one is in mils, okay? Now, so if I use 0.01 mils, and I got 70 colonies, what would have happened if I had used 1 mil? So the question is, how do I get my 0.01 mils to become 1 mil? Can anybody help me? How can my 0.01 become 1 mil? What should I do here?
Divide by.
No, you will not divide. You will not divide.
Microliter to.
No. I'm saying this is 0.01 mils. Okay.
You multiply by 100.
You multiply by 100. Fantastic. Who is that? Who is out there? Who is out
Deborah.
there? Deborah, you are in my books now. Good. So 0.01 mils. I use 0.01 mils. In fact, I use thermoaccumulators. Here, I use thermoaccumulators as a loop, and then did the plating. And I know that the value of the thermoaccumulator is 0.1 mils. Okay, 0.1 mils. And out of the 0.1 mils, I got 70 colonies. So what should I report as colony forming unit? And no, now colony forming unit is in per mil. Per mil. Meanwhile, this one is 0.01 mil. So I have to convert this one to 1 mil. Okay. So to convert this one to 1 mil, it means that I have to multiply here by 100. As soon as I multiply this by 100, I'm going to get 1 mil. Okay. As soon as I get my 1 mil, and I multiply here by 100, it means that I must also multiply here by what? By 100, that's all. So therefore, my colony forming unit per the mil becomes 700 or 7,000, which is here. And it is a very simple thing that I shouldn't think that it is also one of the simplest questions they can ask the diploma level, at the diploma level. Okay. So remember, if I also use 1 macroliter, assuming that I use 1 macroliter, this one, if I use 1 macroliter, then 1 macroliter will have been 0.01 mil. I'm sure by now all of us know that 1 macroliter is 0.01 mil. And if I also got 70 colonies, assuming that the 1 macroliter also gave you 70 colonies, then it means that I have to multiply here this one by 1,000. Okay, I multiply here by 1,000. If I multiply here by 1,000, I'm going to get 1 mil. Okay, so in that 1 mil, I must also multiply this side also by what? By 1,000, and I'm going to get 70,000 colony forming unit per mil. As simple as that. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yes, it's okay.
That's great.
Yes, please.
That's great.
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we move on to today's level, today's lecture. So like you said, we just trying to push more flesh on some of the things that we know already, all right, and how they can ask questions about it. All of us know about gram stain, and you know that gram stain will involve crystal violet, grams iodine, acetone alcohol, and then saffron. I just want to quickly give you this mnemonic. Come in and stain. Okay, come in and stain. This is mnemonic. I'm sure all of us know some of these mnemonics. Come in and stain. Come for crystal violet. Come. So it is come in and stain. This is the let me push it, the process for gram staining. It is also easy for a question on this at the diploma level, that they can arrange the process in any way and tell you which of these processes or steps is good for gram staining. Okay, so so you can use this one. This is not 5-4, please. It's S. Come in and stain. The C is crystal violet. In here is iodine. Okay, I here. So come in and stain. A here is your acetone alcohol, and stain is safranine. Okay, so once you do this, so that is the process. So if they arrange this one, if they say, okay, after crystal violet, acetone, safranine, and then iodine, for example, you know that is wrong. Okay, right. So sometimes, especially at the lower level, they can ask a gram stain, which of the following things is true about gram stain. All right, gram stain, all of us know that it is a differential stain because it will differentiate between gram positive from gram negatives. So that's that is differential stain. So if they want still at the lower level, if they say which of the following statements about gram stain is correct and say it's a differential stain, don't get confused. It is correct, because at the end of the day, the stain will let you differentiate between gram positive and gram negative. All right. So the crystal violet, all of us know. The gram stain, I'm sure a lot of people know about Lugos iodine. Lugos iodine, but you don't know about grams iodine. You see, gram stain have gone through a lot of modifications. The gram stain itself has gone through a lot of modifications. The original gram stain was using junction violet. Okay, the original gram stain was using junction violet. I'm sure all of us know about GV, junction violet. All right. Now it has to be changed to crystal violet. Why? Because of abuse. If all of us know that the junction violet has some pharmaceutical usage. If you have junction violet in your lab for gram stain, and you have a child in the house who has some let's say sauce, some mouth trash or something, I'm sure you'll be tempted to pour some of the junction violet and take it to the house, apparently to heal your boy. But you know that anything from the lab to the home or for use is very, very dangerous. Okay, harm. So over time, the junction violet had to be changed to crystal violet. Junction violet and crystal violet, they are in the same class, except that junction violet is a mixture. Crystal violet is a mixture of junction violet and meter violet. Take this one from me. I'm saying that the original gram stain used junction violet as the primary stain. Now, along the line, it has been modified to crystal violet just because of the potential abuse of the junction violet. All right. Now, so the replacement with crystal violet is the fact that they belong to the same class. Within that violet group, we have junction violet, crystal violet, and also meter violet. Apparently, meter violet combined with junction violet will give you crystal violet. It's as though we have methylated spirit. Okay, if you have methylated spirit is nothing but an ordinary ethanol mixed with a little bit of methanol. Okay, the methyl group is always poisonous. So if you have ethanol in the lab, and that's what people are using as spirit. Now, they wanted to avoid or to minimize the abuse of ethanol. You know, ethanol is just like application. And a lot of people were, in fact, in those days, a lot of people were abusing the ethanol because they know that if you dilute it, you can drink it as application. Those who like to consume application, instead of them to go and buy on the market, they know that they have some alcohol there. They dilute it and then drink a book application. So, and then in the long run, you are going to get cirrhosis, isn't it? So to avoid that, when ethanol is mixed with methanol, and remember that the ethanol is spirit, all of us alcohols are called spirits. So if you methylate or add a methyl portion to the ethanol, you have methylated it. So methanol is also an alcohol, but methanol, you know that is poisonous. If you drink methanol, it will not spare you. You will die in a matter of hours. Okay, unlike the ethanol, which can take you along for some years. So as soon as you add methanol to the ethanol, you have methylated it. The methyl has been added. You have methylated it. So methylated spirit is nothing but the ethanol for which a methanol has been added. And it will serve the same purpose as though you are using the ethanol raw. So similarly, if you have the gentian violet and you have methyl violet, the methyl portion is still poisonous. So if you add a little bit of the methyl violet to the gentian violet, it becomes crystal violet. And crystal violet is poison. Nobody will attempt to use crystal violet on the wound or something. So it's like, so I'm just trying to explain this one alongside the methylated spirit. So what it means is that if you have alcohol, 70% alcohol, and you run out, of course, you can go and buy methylated spirit and use it for the same purpose. Similarly, if let's say you run out of crystal violet in your lab, okay, you can just run over the street and go and buy gentian violet from the pharmacy and use it. It's the same thing, except that this crystal violet has been made poisonous by the addition of, and we don't, just as we have with the methylated spirit, it is commercially prepared. It's not up to you to say that, oh, I have some methanol, I'm adding a certain amount of methanol to it to make it methylated spirit. No, it is commercially prepared. All right. Similarly, you can't say that I have some gentian violet, I also have methyl violet, I'm adding a little bit of it to make a crystal violet. These are all engineered commercially. But I just want you to understand that crystal violet and gentian violet are virtually playing the same role. And the original gram stain actually used gentian violet and not crystal violet. However, now you are using crystal violet for purposes of preventing abuse. All right. When you come to the iodine portion, also the original gram stain used Lugos iodine, and I'm sure a lot of people talk about Lugos iodine. Okay. Now, Lugos iodine is prepared from 1% iodine crystal and 2% potassium iodide. Okay. In preparing this one, you realize that you always will need potassium iodide because iodine is not soluble in water. Iodine is insoluble in water. So if you have to prepare iodine solution, and you just take your iodine crystals, and let's say you want 1%. 1% will mean 1 gram in 100 ml. You put 1 gram of iodine in 100 ml of water for the next 10 years, it will not dissolve because it's insoluble in water. All right. However, Potassium iodide is very soluble in water. And then the iodine too is soluble in potassium iodide. So it's like Kofi Mensah is not my friend, but now Deborah is now my friend. But and then Kofi Mensah is Deborah's friend. So Kofi Mensah can come to me through Deborah because he knows that, oh, I can't go to Grandpa. Grandpa is not my friend. Oh, but Kofi Mensah says my friend is Deborah. So I'm joining Deborah to go to Grandpa. And at the end of the day, it means that Deborah and Kofi Mensah can all come to me. That's how it is. So iodine cannot dissolve in water, but iodine can dissolve in potassium iodide, and potassium iodide can also dissolve in water. Okay, so that's how it works. So you cannot prepare iodine solution without potassium iodide. All right. And in actual fact, your target is the iodine. The iodine is prepared as 1%. So to make it dissolve faster, you take 2 parts of the potassium iodide. So it means that if I take 1 gram of the iodine, I have to take 2 grams of potassium iodide. And I will first have to dissolve the potassium iodide because the water, the potassium iodide is soluble in the water. So I dissolve my potassium iodide. I dissolve my potassium iodide in the water, and then later on add my iodine, then it dissolves. That is the preparation for Lugos iodine. Now you see that the Lugos iodine will have a proportion of 1% of iodine. Now, modern or contemporary gram stain does no longer use the Lugos iodine. It dilutes the Lugos iodine to become 1 in 3. 1 in 3 means that 1 portion or 1 part of the iodine and 2 parts of water. So what it means is that having prepared my Lugos iodine, if I take 100 ml, I can add 200 ml of ordinary water. And then now my total solution, my total volume is now 300 ml. This 300 ml of iodine solution, is this still Lugos iodine? Yes, you can tell me. Now Lugos iodine says prepare 1% and then 2% of the potassium iodide. You have prepared it. Okay. Now you take that volume, let's say 100 ml, and then you add 200 ml of water into it to get 300 ml and use it. Are you still using Lugos iodine? You can tell me. In the first place, I'm hoping that you are following the discussion.
Yes, please, if the question can come again so that.
Okay, but did you follow that we wanted to prepare iodine solution, Lugos iodine? All of us are very familiar with Lugos iodine. And up to date, yes, if you ask anybody, what are the reagents you use for gram stain? I'm sure a lot of you will mention Lugos iodine. Now I'm saying that that will be wrong. That will be wrong. The current grams iodine do not use Lugos iodine, and I'm just trying to take you to the basics. That what is Lugos iodine? Lugos iodine is a preparation of 1% iodine solution. 1%, and 1% means 1 gram in 100 ml. So I'm sure that that is correct, and that is iodine solution, iodine. So you need 1 gram of the iodine dissolved in 100 ml of distilled water. But iodine is insoluble in water. Iodine cannot be dissolved in water. So you weigh the 1 gram, you measure your 100 ml, you put it in, and for the next 20 years, it will not dissolve because it doesn't dissolve. All right. Then I'm saying that iodine is rather soluble in potassium iodide. Okay, there's a difference between iodine and potassium iodide. All right, potassium iodide is also soluble in water. Then I'm saying that now today I got a new friend, Deborah, and I'm saying now Deborah is my friend. But there's a Kofi Mensah here who I don't know, just to make a fun of it. I don't know the Kofi Mensah. Kofi Mensah wants to come to me. The Kofi Mensah that cannot come to me because he doesn't know me, he doesn't know how I'm going to receive him or her, but he knows that Deborah is now my friend and Deborah can come to me. And fortunately, Kofi Mensah too is a friend to Deborah. So what Kofi Mensah can do is to join Deborah and come to me. And at the end of the day, he achieved his aim or purpose. So what I'm saying is that iodine in itself is not soluble in water. Meanwhile, we want the iodine in the water. We want iodine solution. We want the iodine in the water. Iodine is not soluble in water. Then it's known that there's also potassium iodide. Potassium iodide, iodine is soluble in potassium iodide. And then the potassium iodide is also soluble in water. So to get them together, what you do is that you dissolve potassium iodide in water, and then also now dissolve the water now dissolve the iodine in the potassium iodide solution. Please get this point clear. To prepare Lugos iodine or any iodine solution, the iodine itself is not soluble in water. So the iodine must be complemented with potassium iodide, which is both soluble in the distilled water and also soluble in the iodine. Okay, so it becomes like the joint between the two. Okay, so I'm saying that Lugos iodine require 1 gram or 1%. Let me put the 1 gram of the iodine and also 2 grams of the potassium iodide. Now, sometimes what you can also do is that you measure your 2 grams potassium iodide, measure your 1 gram iodine, and now, in the lab, you have mortar. You can grind the two together, the potassium iodide and then the iodine. You can grind them together, and then now dissolve in your water. You get the same results. Either you dissolve your potassium iodide first in the water, and then now add the iodine to the potassium iodide solution, or put your iodine and the potassium iodide together in a mortar, grind them together, and then put the two in water. You also get the same results, right? And I'm saying that for Lugos iodine, it requires 1%. 1% means 1 gram of the iodine and then 100 ml of water. And then because iodine cannot go alone, it has to go with the potassium iodide. But for Lugos iodine, it requires twice the strength of the iodine. So if the iodine is 1 gram, the potassium iodide will necessarily be what? 2 grams. And then all of them in the water. So that will have been your Lugos iodine. I'm saying that modern or the modified Gramston says that the Lugos iodine that we have prepared make 1 in 3 dilution. 1 in 3 dilution means that if I take 1 ml, I can add 2 ml of water, and then my total becomes 3 ml. If I take 100 ml of the Lugos iodine, I have to add 200 ml of water. So my total volume now becomes 300 ml of the iodine solution. Have you gotten that point clear, please? Have you gotten that point clear?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now this is my 300 ml of iodine solution that I've gotten. Can I still call it Lugos iodine?
No, please.
Yes. Why no?
Because the concentration of the iodine and
Fantastic.
potassium iodide,
yes, will have gone down. You see, the concentration of the iodine in the Lugos iodine will be say 1%. But this now, the volume has become 300 ml, still contain the same quantity of the iodine. So it means that the strength or the concentration of the iodine in my new solution will be 0.3%. It means that this one has to divide by 300. Is that all right? So since the concentration of the iodines are not the same, you cannot say that my new concentration or my new iodine solution is still Lugos iodine. So this new iodine is going to be used for Gramston. So you call it grams iodine. So that is sometimes that's how they just want to know whether you are abreast with some of these things. So they can mix up glucose iodine and then grams iodine and find out whether you know your bearing. So yeah, so in your lab and even here, you still prepare glucose iodine and put it down. So now our glucose iodine becomes like a stock solution for us. So we can prepare glucose iodine 2 liters and then put it down. So when we are going to use it, our working iodine solution, which is the grams solution, whatever volume that we take, if you take 50 ml, we add 100 ml of distilled water and to become 150 ml. That is the working reagent for you. And then you use it as such. So that becomes your grams iodine. These are the things that prepare iodine as a stock. So if I prepare 2 liters glucose iodine, at the end of the day, how much grams iodine am I going to get? I prepare 2 liters of glucose iodine. What will be the volume of grams iodine that I can get from it?
So 600.
Iodine and put it as a stock. Liters. And then when you get finished, then you go back to your stock glucose iodine and then take it. So that is that. Take note of that. Then the next one are the coryza. And of course, as far as the gram stain is concerned, the grams iodine or the iodine solution is your mordant, okay? Then you come to the acetone. All of us know that grams stain uses acetone, okay? Now, that is also one thing that you can be tested on. And these tests normally, they will never test MLS level or MLSD level. No, as far as I know, they think that even this one, they use it for those at the time that we have the medical lab, the certificate level. That's why they will ask this question. I'm not even sure they will ask the diploma level. Okay, but for purposes of educating ourselves, we have to do all these things. Now, if you use acetone as a decorator, you know that acetone is very, very harsh, very fast. So that if you use the acetone and you don't hurry up, you end up over decorizing. This one all of us know. In the absence of acetone, what can you use? You can tell me, yes. Let's hurry up. I think I've slowed down too much. In the absence of acetone, what if you don't have acetone? What can you use?
We use alcohol.
Which alcohol?
Yes.
Yes, the ethanol. Okay. Okay. So the alcohol. The disadvantage is that the alcohol too is slow. So if you're decorizing and you also rush, you end up under decorizing. Okay, under decorization. Fortunately, acetone and then alcohol are miscible. And so the fact is that, acetone and alcohol are miscible. Acetone is has a fast action, and the alcohol too has a slow action. So if you mix the two, then you get a moderate decorizer. Okay, so in that case, if you mix the two, sometimes in my lab here, we use 50-50. What it means that we use, if you are preparing 1 liter, it is 500 ml of acetone and then 500 ml of the alcohol. Okay, if you have a small lab and you just want some 200 ml, you use 100 ml of the acetone and then 100 ml of the alcohol, and then use it. You get a good blend. All right, and the decolonization is far, far better. Now, because it's a mixture of the two, either you say acetone, alcohol mixture, or call it Grams decolorizer. So if you have a container and you have Grams decolorizer there, that Grams decolorizer is not acetone, neither is it what? Alcohol. It is acetone alcohol. So these are things that they expect you to know. All right, these are things they expect you to know. So Grams decolorizer is not acetone, and Grams decolorizer is not alcohol. A Grams decolorizer is a mixture of acetone alcohol. And of course, it depends on the labs and depends on manufacturers. Some manufacturers will bring Grams decolorizer, and they can decide to make it 70 of acetone and 30 of alcohol, or 30 of alcohol, acetone and 70 of alcohol. And that variation, that one there, all you have to know is that Grams decolorizer is a mixture of acetone and alcohol. You can do an in-house one, your own in-house. You can do your own mixture, and that one depends on you. Good. And then, of course, the counter stain is saffronine, but you can also have a neutral red also as a counter stain. You can also have dilute carboxyl also as a counter stain. That is, in the absence of saffronine, you can use neutral red. If you don't have saffronine, you don't have neutral red, you have carboxyl. You move to carboxyl. Carboxyl is the primary stain for Z10 stain. If you have it, you can dilute it 1:15. 1:15 just means that 1 ml of the carboxyl plus 14 ml of the same water, and you are going to get 1:15. Okay, then use it. It will work as just as saffronine or listen, and that is that. So I'm sure that you know the processes. The question, I know the process for Gram stain. Good. So you do your Gram stain. The question which can come is that, and especially let's say at the MLS and the MLS level, that's okay. You do a Gram stain. Now your Gram stain. Okay, before we go on, let me give you a certain background to the Gram staining reaction. Gram stain is a test for cell wall integrity. Take this one very carefully and seriously. Gram stain is a test of the cell wall integrity. Okay, and all of us know that there are certain components that make up gram positive cell wall. So you call them peptidoglycans. The peptidoglycan cell wall, that is characteristics for gram positive organisms. Now, for the gram negatives, they have a very thin peptidoglycan, virtually almost no peptidoglycan, very thin. All right. Now, so it is the cell wall, the nature of the cell wall that determines the gram reaction. Take this note. It is the nature of the cell wall that will determine your gram reaction, whether it should be gram positive or gram negative. Now, so if you do anything that compromises the cell wall, your gram reaction can change. So for example, if you know that this is a gram positive organism, and then you have cultured it, you leave it on the bench for about 3 days, and then now you are preparing a smear out of it. The likelihood is that once the organism has been left on the bench for about 3 days, what is likely to happen is that the organisms are beginning to die. And once the organisms are beginning to die, what is happening is that the cell wall integrity, the cell wall structure is beginning to be compromised. Okay, the cell wall structure is now going to be compromised. Now, the gram stain is said that if you apply your primary stain, which is a crystal violet, and then they enter the cell. Once they enter the cell, and then the iodine goes in there. It forms a complex. That complex makes the molecule, the crystal violet, and then the iodine complex, the molecule becomes bigger. Remember that the cell wall of gram-positive has a thick peptoglycan. So if you now apply the counter stain, if you apply the decolorizer is trying to pull out the stain, which has been the primary stain, which has been applied first. But because the cell wall is thick, and because the crystal violet iodine complex 2 is thick, is bigger, they get entrapped within the cytoplasm of the bacteria or of the organism, and therefore they are retained. So after the application of the decolorizer, organisms that are gram negative will have lost the primary stain because they have a thin peptoglycan, and then the decolorizer will just go in there and pull out the primary stain. But when they do with because the cell wall of the gram-positive are thick, made of peptoglycan, they cannot do that. And so the stains retain in there. So at the end of the application of the decolorizer, gram-positives will stain blue. I mean, depending, of course, the crystal violet. The crystal violet is violet, but remember that it's going to be complex with iodine, and iodine is brownish a little bit. So we have a brown and then a violet color combined. Then the whole thing tends to become something like blue of a sort. Okay, and that's how gram stain is not violet, but rather blue of a sort. So after the decolonization stage, all gram-positive organisms will stain gram-positive, will stain blue. Whilst gram-negative organisms, what will be the stain of gram-negative organisms after the decolonization? Who can tell me?
That'll be red or purple.
No.
It will be transparent.
After decolonization, the gram-negatives will be colorless or transparent, as somebody said. Yes. So that's the trick. If let's say, and the thing is that some of these questions they will not ask the senior men because they think that the senior men know. Sometimes if they know that the senior men don't know, they will ask these questions. But normally they ask the lower cadre. They ask the lower cadre and then they fail for nothing. Okay. So after the decolonization stain, then they will tell you after decolonization, gram-positive will stain white. Then everybody's confused because everybody knows that gram-negatives will stain red. But they forget that the question is after the decolonization stage, you have not come to apply your counter stain. So that's how it is. So in the first place, you must understand the whole dynamics and then also use a little bit of common sense. You always get, the questions are never beyond anybody. Okay, so the first is you understand the principles, you understand the dynamics, you also can apply your common sense. So they say that, okay, after the counter stain, gram-negatives will stain what? Gram-negatives will stain colorless. Because after decolonization, the decolonizer has pulled off the primary stain. Okay, so the secondary stain, which is the counter stain, will now go to stain because the gram-positive have already retained the primary stain. They are not going to pick the second color. So the second color, which is the counter stain, is now going to stain those that lost the primary stain, which is the gram-negatives. Right. Okay. So knowing this principle, hello. So knowing this principle, then the questions can come in like this. Like, for example, a question that they normally will ask the MLSD people. Microplasmas. Okay, let me also explain this one. So if let's say, like I said, you have a gram-positive organism which has been left on the bench for 3 days, then you go and stain it. When you go and stain it, the reaction is that because it has stayed for 3 or 4 days, the organism is dying. And once it's dying, its cell wall structure has been compromised. So the cell wall has been weakened already. So during the staining, as soon as you apply the decolorizer has easy access into the internal of the organism. So, but remember, whether the organism is gram-positive or gram-negative, after the primary stain, all of them will stay positive. It doesn't matter because all of them will pick the primary stain. So after the primary stain or after the gram or after the more advanced stage, you will never know the difference between gram-positive and gram-negatives. All of them will pick it. Now, when you apply the decolorizer, because the gram-positive organism have stayed for a long time and then the cell wall has weakened, it will behave as though it is the cell wall doesn't exist. So the decolorizer will just go in there and pull off the primary stain. And then now, after the counter stain, it will pick the counter stain. And now this organism is going to stain what? Going to stain gram-negative. So if they ask question, they'll ask you a question around that and want to find out whether you will understand some of these dynamics. All right. And then at the higher level, MLSD level, for example, they can ask you, I know there's a popular question on mycoplasma. Remember that mycoplasma don't have cell walls. I'm sure you know that. There's what we call cell wall deficient bacteria. Cell wall deficient bacteria. And one typical example of a cell wall deficient bacteria is what? It's mycoplasma. So mycoplasma don't have cell walls. And because they don't have cell walls, they behave like the chlamydias and then the uroplasmas and then viruses. They are always obligate intracellular because if they don't live within cell walls, they themselves, they don't have cell walls, so they will perish. So because mycoplasma don't have cell walls, okay, gram reaction can never be taken as a true reaction. So sometimes you can ask a question like, let's say, mycoplasma is gram-negative. I mean, which of the following statements about mycoplasma is correct? Let's say it's gram-negative. That statement is wrong because whether an organism is gram-positive or negative, it depends on its cell wall. You have an organism which don't have a cell wall. So how do you use gram stain to assess it? It doesn't hold. So the thing is that the gram staining itself, they will be able to know it. I mean, but you should know the science behind it so that when they ask you, like the MSL level, they want to test your scientific knowledge. So they won't ask you the gram stain in a raw manner as they ask let's say the diploma level. They don't do that. So you see that they want to know whether you know that mycoplasma don't have cell wall. Yes, you should know that. If you know that you don't have cell wall, then you know that gram stain reaction will not have any reflection on it. Okay, so that's how they're going to test you on that. So these are some of the things that you should know. And at lower cadre level too, you should know some very basic examples of gram-positive organisms and gram-negatives. For example, you should know that E. coli is a gram-negative rod. Staph are gram-positive, so they can make a list. Which of the following organisms, or sometimes instead of saying which of the following organisms is gram-positive, they can say that which of the following organism will take the primary stain. Understand? But you know that the gram-positives are the only one which will retain the primary stain at the end of the gram staining. So instead of saying which of the following one will stain gram-positives, if they want to test you, they will say that which of the following organisms will retain the primary stain. Okay. So you know that you are talking about gram-positives, and then they will make a list. Let's say Staphylococcus, so, and you should be able to pick. And these ones, you should know some basic examples, like Clostridia, gram-positives. What do you call it? Those lactobacillus, for example, is a common gram-positive rod. Then. So that's at the lower level, that's how they do. At the senior level, and when I say senior level, MLS level, a question on gram stain sometimes you need to be very, very knowledgeable. For example, you can have a question like this, that, you have a CSF sample, and then you did a gram stain and saw some short gram-positive ROS. What organism is it likely to be? Okay, so it's a big test for you. One, it is a gram-positive ROS from CSF. A CSF from, let's say, a neonate. A CSF from a neonate has come to you in the lab. You did a gram stain, and then the gram stain saw gram-positive short ROS. What will be your suspicion? All right. So straight away, you should know that, yes, normally people know that, as for CSF, you are dealing with streptococcus, pneumonia, you are dealing with Haemophilus influenza, you are dealing with Neisseria meningitis. That is for the adults. And remember this question, they said neonate. For neonates, the common organisms that causes neonatal meningitis include strep group B, and that's strep agalatia. You also have Neisseria monocytogenes. We have the Enterobacteria, especially E. coli. Okay, so these three organisms are on top. Strep group B, Neisseria monocytogenes, and the E. coli. You know that strep group B is a strep, so it is gram-positive cocci. Okay, E. coli is a gram-negative rod, and then Neisseria is gram-positive rod. You see, so once they will not just ask a raw question like that. So they just want even to find out whether you know that from CSF, you know organism called Neisseria monocytogenes, and you know the gram reaction of that organism. So the same gram stain, they will ask different questions at every level. At each level, the question will be different. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is how I want to prepare you. And like I've said over and over again, nobody has questions for anybody, but we are giving you the baseline information, all the science behind some of the questions that they ask, and some of the very things that we do in the lab, the understanding of them, so that let them put the question anyhow, you'll be able to answer it. Once you understand the principles, the science behind it, and then the some common sense application, you always be able to go through. So this is just what I want to add. I know you already know a lot about gram stain. It's just little that I wanted to add to your gram stain stuff. Please, any question on the gram? Now, let me also make another listing. Remember, I told you that the gram reaction is all about the cell wall. Now, you do a gram stain, and then on the film, you saw neutrophils that have stained bluish, or cells, lymphocytes or neutrophils that have stained bluish. How will you explain this? What will be your comment on that? This is something that happened in my lab here just last week. There was cornea scraping, and the doctor was expecting or suspecting acanthamoeba. We'll come to some of this later on. Acanthamoeba, I'm sure you know that it is a protozoa belonging to the amoebic group. So acanthamoeba, so they were suspecting acanthamoeba keratitis. And then they brought this. Then I asked that gram stain be prepared. So I look at the slide and then I was just laughing. You see, all the slide, all the cells. I mean, every cell you see on the slide is bluish. Now, and these are some of the questions sometimes they'll ask you. The cells, the neutrophils, the lymphocytes, they have all still bluish. What is the problem? And how will we explain it? If you understand the discussion that I've gone on so far, you should be able to answer this question straight away. You did a gram stain and you saw neutrophils, and then the neutrophils are staining bluish, or the cell lymphocytes, they're all staining bluish, or even epithelial cells are staining bluish. What is your take on that?
Let me try. I think it will be a gram-positive bacteria.
You haven't seen any bacteria. I'm saying that the cells that you saw on the film, the cells you saw, remember if you do a gram stain from a clinical specimen, okay, apart from the bacteria that you may see, you're also going to see cells, isn't it? You're likely to see cells, some past cells, or whatever. If these 5 cells are staining bluish, what will be your primary or initial reaction about the whole gram staining this thing?
The cells have overstained.
The cells have not overstained. Is that my Deborah? Is this my Deborah?
No, please.
Okay. And you are?
Edith.
I'm just Edith. Okay. You've tried, but that is not it.
The cells have retained the primary dye.
And so? And so?
The decolorization step wasn't done well.
How? It doesn't done well, how?
It was done too quick, or like it was fast.
Come again. Somebody should try it. This is how we want you to. Yes.
Or the cell membrane.
Come again.
The membrane has been stained.
I'm not sure whether you understand the question. Somebody said the cells have. You see, I'm sure you know that the big difference between eukaryotic cells and then prokaryotic cells. You know the difference between prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells?
Yes.
What is the big difference?
Membrane-bound organelles.
That membrane-bound organelles. Yes, that is yes. The eukaryotes have membrane-bound. This one don't have. Okay, that's one example. But I want another difference.
Prokaryotic cells are found mostly in bacteria, or bacteria are prokaryotic.
So bacteria are prokaryotes, and the eukaryotes are human cells, and that's what's correct. What again? Yes, what again? Eukaryotic human cells don't have cell walls, do they? Human cells don't have cell walls. We only have cell. We don't have cell walls. You can have cell membranes. There's a difference between cell membrane and cell walls. You see, so the bacteria have cell walls. Human cells don't have cell walls. Remember, I've told you that gram stain is a test of the cell wall. It's a test for the cell wall, not cell membrane. It's a test for cell walls. Okay. Now, human cells don't have cell membrane. The human cells don't have cell walls. So the human cell, the white cells, the neutrophil, whatever that you are seeing as past cells, they are all human cells. And therefore, you don't expect them to stain positive. You don't. Where is their cell wall? that retain the distance. So once human cells or neutrophils are staining gram-positive, then it means that they were under-decorized. You understand? It means that somebody said that it was not applied well, but you couldn't say how well or how unwell. It means that the decorization was not done properly, and it was under-decorized. If you under-decorize, then you don't give time for the cells, for the decorizer even to take away the primary stain. So cells that are supposed to stain gram-negative, okay, are staining gram-positive. As simple as that. So if you see, and this is a question they can ask anybody. Other, I'm sure they may not ask the diploma, but for the MLS, they can ask you. You make a stain, and let's say the nucleus of neutrophils or even expect once they are retaining it. Actually, the acetone had finished. See, if you do this, it means that the thing that you're doing, you are not doing for doing sake. You understand what you're doing. The people are used to the fact so that I had to probe further and then got to know that the acetone has finished. You understand? Right. This is also very practical. Let me ask you. It has nothing to do with examinations. But in the situation that I'm telling you now, cornea screening, you can imagine the cornea being scraped. It is not a specimen that you can just say, okay, well, get me a fresh sample. Okay, it is a very critical, one of the most critical specimens you can receive in the lab. So now the slide, this is what has happened. Who can tell me how you can retrieve or you can get your slide in proper shape? Meanwhile, remember you have applied oil on it and you examined only to find out that everything was blue. Meanwhile, the organism that you're looking for should be gram-positive, should be gram-negative. All right. Acanthamiba, the cyst, which you're looking for, should be gram-negative. If ordinary cells are staining blue, it means that even if the thing is there, it will also stain blue and you not see it. Meanwhile, the slide is just one slide, and you cannot ask the patient to go for another cornea scraping. The cornea eye scraping, not swab, not eye swab, scraping. So how will you rectify the situation? I want somebody to just give me this is a practical case that happened in Confanachi microbiology lab just last week. How do you think that the problem could be rectified? Remember, we have applied oil on it. We have applied oil on the slide, and you saw that the slide was on the stain. How will you reverse it? Anybody can give it a try. If you try and you don't get it, it's just you're just trying something. All right, so let me tell you. So you see that you make up some application from histopathology. You know that once you have oil on it, you have to remove the oil. How will you remove the oil? So you apply xylene. So once you apply xylene on it, the xylene will take off the the oil. Now you want to you do so, you know, in histopathology, you have bringing section down to water. Okay, so if you have wax or something, you have to apply your xylene, you take off the wax, and then you add decreasing concentrations of alcohol. Okay, is that not it? Right. So you add your xylene to take off the oil, and then you add alcohol. So the alcohol to take off the xylene. Okay, sorry, the alcohol will also take off the xylene. Now, fortunately, you are only going to decolorize again. And decolorization is a mixture of alcohol and then acetone. So it means that just even after application of the alcohol, you can now use your decolorizer. Assuming that we are going to go back to a crystal balance. Crystal balance will have been water-based, isn't it? So if it's water-based, then it means that you have to have brought it down to the water level. So from the alcohol, after the xylene, you add alcohol, then into 70% alcohol, 50% alcohol, into water, and then you start the gram stain again. But here, we are only interested in the decolorization stage. So what it means is that after taking off the oil with the xylene, and then after taking off the xylene with alcohol, you can straight away go into the decolorization, because the decolorization is also a mixture of acetone and alcohol. Since you have already added alcohol, you don't need to take it down further again. So that's what we did. Then we did the decolorization again, and then we followed up with the counter stain, and then the slide was fine for examination and reporting. So ladies and gentlemen, what I'm saying is that, you see, we do these things raw, gram stain, anybody can do it. But if you don't have a certain science concept behind it, if things go wrong, you will not be able to correct it. And if it comes to examination like licensure examination, they just want to test whether you understand your principles, and then you can also apply some common sense, and then so be it. So please, we are trying to take you through beyond, I've said this over, beyond the examination. And I'm sure that once we do this, any examination, any question that will border around gram stain, from A to Z, anybody can do it, both the diploma level and then the distance level and whatever level. Let me end here today. Unfortunately, we have lagged on so much, so well. I'm thinking that probably it's better this way than to just rush through and you don't get anything. Now, remember, I mentioned the mycoplasma issue. Take note at especially the MLSD level. There's also what we call L-form bacteria. L-form bacteria is a bacteria that has been exposed to an agent that has destroyed its cell wall. Now, the nature of L-form is that if you expose a bacteria to something that destroys its cell wall, if that source is removed, what will happen? If you expose a bacteria to a dangerous source and that destroys its cell wall, and that's the source of the destruction is removed, what will happen? What will happen? Yes.
The cell wall will be intact, Grandpa.
The cell wall has been compromised. The cell wall has been removed. if you put some Lysol on your bacteria listing, and then you forgot, and then later on you realize that, hey, I put Lysol in this, and then you wash off the Lysol. What will happen to your bacteria?
It means that you now expose that bacteria.
Oh, okay.
So there's no soil carbon, so you have exposed the bacteria.
Yes, the bacterial cell has been damaged. Now, if you remove the source of the damage, what happens is that the cell wall is built from within. You know that there are some proteins within the bacterial cytoplasm or protoplasm that builds the cell wall. Is that not it? So once the source of the destruction is removed, the cell wall may come back to life. That's what we call L-form bacteria. L-form bacteria is those that have lost. They are different from cell wall deficient bacteria. For example, Mycoplasma. Cell wall it hasn't got any cell wall. So it knows how to live its life. Okay, so those are cell wall deficient bacteria. Now, if a certain bacteria has a cell wall, but for some circumstances, the cell wall has been damaged. Okay, if the damage goes on for a long time, of course, the bacteria will die. But if within a short time, the source of the danger has been removed, then the bacteria is living temporarily without cell wall, but it can rebuild its cell wall. Those are what we call the L-form bacteria. Okay, so you know how they can also test, let's say the MLSD level on gram stain, you are in the lab and then one of your junior staffs expose your bacterial culture to a dangerous chemical, and then you recovered it. Okay, you want to test, they do a gram stain. What will happen? Irrespective of the gram position already, this organism will stay gram negative. Do you understand why? Hello? I'm saying that irrespective of the gram position, if the organism was gram positive already, if the organism was already gram positive or gram negative, it would necessarily become gram negative because the cell wall has been deleted or has been compromised. Once the cell wall has been compromised, it has become we call it L-form bacteria. So this L-form bacteria will necessarily stay gram negative because the cell wall, which is supposed to serve as a bridge for gram positive or gram negative, has been compromised. So these are some of the things that I expect you to think through, especially the high level people. And any question you should be able to succumb it. Thank you very much. We'll call it a day, and then.
Grandpa, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What was that question?
Yeah, Grandpa, please. You were saying that for the mycoplasma, we cannot use the gram stain to assess it. Because it has no, so you can't say whether it's gram positive or not.
It may say gram negative, but is it a true negative? Is it a true gram negative?
You were saying we can't even use gram reaction to assess it because it has no cell wall for the mycoplasma. Yes. I don't know whether that's what I heard.
Yes, that's what I said.
But
see, so
yes,
so
but,
you can have some, you can have some textbooks reporting that mycoplasma is a gram negative organism. But that gram negativity, is it a true reflection? Because the thing itself has no cell wall. It's like what I'm talking about, L-form bacteria. Hello. So if you have L-form bacteria, you expect it to be gram positive or gram negative. So the gram reaction is not a true reflection. I don't know whether you're getting my point.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Even though, for example, chlamydia, you can get some textbook to say that what do you call it? Chlamydia is a gram negative organism. You understand? Some books report that. Yeah. So, but it is as a result of its defect it doesn't have a cell wall. So how do you expect it to behave? So that gram reaction, what I'm saying is that a gram reaction is a test of cell wall integrity. So if the T cell doesn't have a cell wall, then it means that it doesn't even come in at all. I hope you are getting my point. So
yes, please.
So it depends. So for example, say that why is it that mycoplasma is resistant to a lot of antibiotics? Most antibiotics are cell wall dependent. They will attack the cell wall. Most antibiotics will attack the cell wall. Do you know that? So if you have an organism that doesn't have a cell wall, what will be the basis for a sensitivity against an antibiotic? So those are the things that I expect you to cast your mind to. You understand? So the basis for mycoplasma not being sensitive to a lot of antibiotics is the fact that it doesn't have cell wall. Meanwhile, a lot of the antibiotics are cell wall dependent, especially the beta-lactamases, the penicillins. They will attack the cell wall. And you have an organism that doesn't have a cell wall. So how do you expect it to be sensitive? So those are some of the dynamics. Okay. So what I'm saying that if you see a question on mycoplasma and say that let's say gram reaction, blah 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 about mycoplasma is adequate for mycoplasma or something like this, that cannot be true. That cannot be true. Okay. Thank you very much.
And it is the L-form bacteria.
Yeah, the L-form bacteria, yes. And I'm saying that the question, they can just put a question like, let's say you have exposed your bacterial culture stock into, let's say, Lysol or something, and then you have retrieved it. It is just trying to test whether you know that once you expose bacteria to a source like this one, the cell will become defective. Okay, that state is different from cell wall deficient. Sometimes some people refer to L-form bacteria as cell wall deficient, but the difference is that cell wall deficient may be artificially created. I hope that you're getting my point.
Yes, please.
And that is the L-form. But there are some who probably, by their nature, they don't have cell wall. A typical example I always start with the mycoplasma. They don't have cell wall. And so by their own makeup, they know that they don't have cell wall, so they know how to survive. But there's bacteria which originally have cell wall, and for some circumstances, it has destroyed the cell wall. That becomes the L-form. Now, in this case, once the source of the injury or danger is removed, the cell wall can be rebuilt and the bacteria can multiply again. I hope that point is clear. I hope the point is clear. Hello?
Hello, Grandpa.
I hope I've made myself clear.
Yes, sir. Hello, Grandpa.
Yes, sir.
Please, they should mute their mics. They are giving us feedbacks.
Okay, so please, participants. Any question?
Hello, Grandpa.
Yes, sir.
Please, talking about the L forms. So how do you retrieve what maybe it has been subjected to a source that destroys the cell wall? How do you retrieve your original bacteria?
Oh, you know, I was just putting in the question form to the extent that if they put a question on Gramstein about that, they want to test whether you have idea about cell L-form creation and the fact that L-form will have a challenge of your Gramstein, okay? But as to its practicality, example is what I said. If let's say somebody has poured Lysol on your culture plate, okay, you come in, you just try to wash it off or something, and then you retrieve it back. But it will take a long time for the bacteria to, in that case, you can swap culture into a fresh medium. It will still take time because the cell wall has been compromised or cell wall has been destroyed to become L-form. The cell wall has to be rebuilt before the bacteria doubling or generation can restart. So it will take a long time for the bacteria to be recovered. All right. So we are meeting next week, but within the course of the week, if you have time and if there is anything, I think I will try to do more period than has been assigned to me so that you can cover more. I don't want it to go so fast. Say that we'll be just interested in questions. No. I want us to build ourselves in a manner that with or without sample questions, any question that will come under the topics that we have discussed, you'll be able to do justice to it. That is my hope. All right. So if there are no questions, we'll call it a day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too.
Thank you, Grandpa.
Grandpa.